Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm your co-host. My name is Seth Ressler.
I'm Becky Scarcello.
And this is the show where we meet the creatives who are shaping Detroit. Becky, today we are talking about improvisation. Can you improvise? Are you good at improvising?
No, I'm not. But I think when I get in a mode where I need to, I can get it back. Like I can get in a groove. But in general life, no. I kind of like to know, what are we doing? How are we doing it?
I understand that. Yeah. I used to be good at this. Look, the ability to improvise is, I believe, a skill. And the reason I say that is because I used to have it. I was in an improv group when I was in high school, and I didn't totally suck. Mm-hmm. And I've lost it. I mean, I've noticed now that my brain has become very sort of rigid and regimented. And like you say, like I like my things. Too. Yes, I know. Right.
Yeah. I think I was better at improv too when my kids were younger. Yes. Like as a parent, when they're really, it's just unpredictable every day. Yeah. And I think I was just more on my toes with it now. But
so I wish often that I could improv as well as I used to be able to.
Same.
And it turns out that it's actually a skill that you can develop. And this is something that's very important for artists and entertainers. I mean, even if you're at the top of the game, I mean, some people are at the top of their game because they do things a certain way. And it's valuable to improvise. So we're going to talk about that today. We have joining us a man who is a jazz musician and an entrepreneur. So jazz musicians obviously
great at improvising. Yep.
Improvise a lot. He regularly speaks on the topic of improvisation. So we want to welcome him to the show. Jeff Ponders too. Welcome, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being here.
It is my pleasure.
I said Jeff Ponders too. Did you say Jeff Ponders the second? What's the... You do?
It's usually the second. My mom won't get mad at you if you say two.
Oh,
right. Okay. All right. So I'm like Trump with Leviticus. I just totally scred that up. I realized it as soon as I said it. I was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, welcome to the show.
Let's get back to what we're talking about. So why don't we start here? Why is improvisation even important? Why are we even talking about it?
Oh man, improvisation to me is probably one of the most important skills for creatives, and quite simply because nothing ever stays the same. Just like you were talking earlier about the idea of you feel really comfortable when everything is planned out and you know what it is. But Murphy's Law is always Murphy's Law. Stuff always goes wrong, even when your plans are like perfect. And so whether you're creating or planning to create, improvisation just is really about you being able to still do your best work, no matter what happens outside of your control.
Yeah. Thinking on your feet, adapting, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what's the role of improvisation in jazz? You're a jazz musician.
Yeah.
How does it work in jazz?
Man, so one of the things I think is amazing about jazz, you think about classical music and it's like, hey, play all the notes exactly as they're written. You get to rock and roll and R&B, and there's room for expression, right? With jazz, literally the entire medium is about co-creation. It's this idea of we have a script, but you are expected to add things to the script that weren't there. It's kind of like comedy improv, except there's probably a little bit more framework to it than comedy could be. And when it's really going well, what ends up happening is you have what I call magical moments. Somebody plays something really special. Everybody hears it like, oh, crap, that's really, really cool. Let's go do that instead of what was on the script. And now you've got something brand new that both for the musicians and for the audience create a special moment that, wasn't expected, but in many cases can't even be reproduced. And those are things that you never forget. So,
you mentioned comedy. I noticed when I was dabbling in stand-up comedy that there were two types of comedians. And I realized that you're talking about sort of the Go comedy or Planet Ant style improvisation. Yeah. But there were comedians that could just riff on stage and run with it, and they were just funny in anything that they said. Josh Adams, who we've had on the show, is a Detroit comedian. He's like that. Yeah. And then there were guys who they knew the inflection of every single line and where every single pause was and where and I fit into that latter camp, and I always envied the guys who, like Josh Adams just makes it look so easy when he gets on stage.
No, he's a savant, man. Josh is ridiculous. What's crazy is like, Josh is like a jazz musician in comedy, right? Yes. The idea of he can still go up there and know the jokes he's going to tell, but I can say Josh's ears are always open. His ears and his eyes are open. So Josh will get up there, he'll survey the room and be like, you funny. I'm not messing with you because you can beat me up. And I can't wait to talk to you. And so I've got my script, but he also recognizes that the improvisation in those moments actually helps him connect with the audience in a more personal way. So now when he actually goes into the actual jokes that were scripted, it's easier to carry people along with the ride.
Yeah.
So as a jazz musician, you recognize what he's doing?
Oh, absolutely, man. You see it. Like, honestly, you see it everywhere. I mean, you see it in comedy. Obviously, you see it in, like, it's not just jazz that we see improvisation. You see it in all forms of music, certainly, even classical. But at the end of the day, it's really just, how can I add my own sauce to what's happening right now?
Yeah.
And it goes into painting. Like, I don't know if you've ever been and you've seen a painter paint live for whatever reason. Yeah, that's practically improvisation. Or better yet, you got a painter who's here who wants to paint this landscape that they're looking over there, and they see it. It's perfect. They got all the colors, and then a bird comes and poops on the white.
Yeah. Right.
So what do you do now? Because it's not like you just scrap the whole thing. You still got to make something beautiful. So that's improvisation.
I think to me, it sounds like it really boils down to just being present. Because if you're present and in the moment, then you're going to see these opportunities. Oh, I can do this or that. So let's talk more about that, like the role of improvisation just in life and creative pursuits.
Man, I think you're absolutely right. The idea of, am I here and are my ears, when I say ears, I think it's about all the senses. Am I aware and open to whatever's happening around me? Example, you're painting and it starts to rain, or just the humidity in the room just isn't right for the medium that you're using. So what do you do? And it works for everything. You're writing and the pencil breaks, or you just, whatever you're doing is just, can I be present with what's happening around me? And more importantly, not just when things go wrong, but can I be inspired by the things happening around me too? And I think that's really one of the most beautiful parts about it. It's this idea that I'm so present in the moment that when magic happens, I'm not going to be the one to put water and put the fire out. But really, I want to take that magic and kind of bring it into the mix and make the whole thing hotter.
Okay, so I want to do this.
Yeah, because we've already admitted that we suck at this.
Okay, this is amazing. So what do we do? It doesn't just come naturally. Like, it's a skill, right? Like, how do we get better at it? How can we exercise this?
So watch this. So if I say, what's improvisation? What do you say?
Thinking on your feet and changing the unexpected.
I say elephant. Is that
my mom would say pink elephant, right?
Right. I think this is a trick question. I think this is.
So watch this. Y'all just improvise right now, because you didn't know I was going to ask you the question like that, right? And so you had to respond to what happened in the moment. But what also happened, it wasn't that it was completely random. No, elephant's kind of random, but it wasn't completely random.
It's pretty random.
It's a little random.
Bonus points.
Negative points.
He gets like 2 points for that one.
Okay, all right.
If you said elephants are big, you might get 2.5 for it. So the cool thing about improvisation is that you can't improvise what you can't do. So you actually have to have the actual skills in place to execute. Mm-hmm. So the foundation of improvisation is actually all the boring crap that nobody likes to practice. If it's music, it's playing your scales and understanding how to read. If it's painting, it's actually understanding shapes and textures. If it's photography, it's understanding lighting and apertures and all the stuff the language I can't really speak that well. If it's comedy, it's understanding like a bit and understanding when the turn is and all that kind of stuff. It's actually having the fundamental foundations of whatever creative medium you're doing.
This is why I constantly spontaneously break into filing of papers. Like, I'm just,
That's just what you know.
It's what I know.
No. What Seth does is anytime there's a problem, he's like, let's make a spreadsheet.
I do. I make a lot of spreadsheets.
For what? Like, name a problem. True. Name any problem. Oh, let's make a spreadsheet for that.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not open up my Excel and see the thousands of spreadsheets.
Two more.
Hey. But, that being said, like that actually makes a lot of sense. One of the things we do in improvisation and jazz is, let's say you're playing and you lose your way in a song, like you're lost. Then what you do is you stop and you just go back to the melody. It literally is going back to the thing that's already established, and you get back on track. And then once you kind of get there, now you can kind of be present again. The things that were happening around, like those moments are already past, but there's still new things happening, and there's still old skills that you can bring to the table. Now you're just having a whole new conversation with the moment. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So how do you do it? One, have real skills. So like, go practice the stuff that makes you functional at whatever the craft is. And then beyond that, This is crazy. So this actually goes to like my business world, but it applied to jazz, and there was like this weird kind of mashup that happened. One of my mentors would tell me, like he would say, all right, you want to make some money? I'd be like, yeah, of course I want to make money. I don't want to be a broke jazz musician. I want to be a good one, but not broke. And so he's like, okay. He literally went and grabbed a handful of grass out of a lawn. He's like, sell this to me. I'm like, wait, what? And so the exercise of taking something that was just here and saying, what can you do with this? We spent about 5 to 10 minutes. It sucked. I was really bad at it back then. I was like 14. And I just had to come up with a bunch of things you can do with the grass. It was like, okay, I'm going to make little hula dresses for some dolls. I'm going to put it in pillows and make little toy pillows. We're going to burn it for fuel. Somebody's going to smoke it. Don't smoke real grass. That's a bad idea. Yeah. just like coming up with stuff that you could do with the blades of grass. Mm-hmm. And that simple exercise just pushed me to say, how can I think differently about this thing that's given to me? And the same thing applies to creatives, where you know what you can do. Then you just say, how can I do it different? How can I do it better?
That's
and
awesome.
Then try it.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That
Plus,
really good.
Not only is that awesome, but I'm going to be rich because in my front yard, I have a lot of grass.
That's a lot of grass. You could sell a lot. Yeah. So what are the common things that trip people up? You know, what are the challenges that people seem to face a lot with getting better at improv?
Thinking that they can't. Just saying.
Mindset.
Mindset's a huge thing. The limiting thinking is often the only thing standing between people and actually expressing yourselves. Like, as a creative, like naturally you create stuff. Unless you're just a person who draws what's in front of you, like pretty much everything else falls into some form of, how can I take something that didn't exist and now express it? The only thing stopping you from doing more of that is thinking that you can't. Other thing that happens, so there's limiting thinking before you get to the moment of creation, which again is improvisation. 2, it's when you're actually in the moment, overthinking it. It's like, man, if you've ever been somewhere and you're just like, oh my God, this is really happening right now. Did you know this is happening? I can't believe this is happening. Everybody's like, shut up and just let it happen. Just learn how to shut up and allow the moment to happen, and really kind of falling back on the things that you know. And again, ears up, paying attention to the moment around you. Once you kind of get out your own way, it's not that hard.
Okay, so if I get out of my own way, how do I get this one?
Right, because there's 2 of us here. I mean, I can sell grass, but she's bringing me down.
So how does it work in a team environment? You know, like in jazz, improvisation works with the bandmates. Like, how do you apply that to other scenarios where you have a team to work with? You
take a pencil and you jab them in the side.
Oh, I love that advice.
No, so part of the beauty of improvisation in the group, again, it's still being present. It's the idea of listening, and it's creating spaces to allow other people to participate. I like to think about it as co-creation versus collaboration. Have y'all ever been in a conversation with somebody who just wouldn't shut up?
Many times.
You mean before we started this broadcast? No, never. But tell me what that's like.
Right. So learning how to so one, it starts with just shutting up yourself and creating space, silence, because that gives somebody else room to do something too. Now, sometimes you do have to like kind of give a little elbow jab there, like shut up. But if you're both in a space where your ears are open, you're paying attention, and the idea, the goal isn't for me to say as much as I need to say, it's to say what's appropriate for the moment. And then as I'm listening, I'm really just having a conversation with you. Like when you watch a band play, whether it's jazz, like literally any form, any medium, what's really happening is they're having a conversation amongst each other. Like the drummer playing drum, and the bass player comes in, boom, 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 boom. I'm singing Billie Jean, whatever. Like, but what's happening is that they're finding spaces together, and they're finding ways to create a really cool tapestry where what I do complements what you do. And if you do something really cool, I'm going to hear it because my ears are open, and I'm going to respond to it. And literally that response right there is improvisation, because you did something I wasn't expecting and I responded to it. Boom.
Yeah, I love that. And kind of keeping your ego out of it.
Woo! That's a huge deal. My God. Nobody likes to know it all. Nobody likes anybody who talks too much. So pull your ego back. The goal isn't for you as the creator or you as the collaborator to look good. The goal is for all of us to look good, because when we look good, we look good.
Let me ask you something. I know a lot of improvisational comedians, they will often talk about this rule called yes and. Is that a thing in jazz?
Yes and no.
Okay.
No, it's a real thing. So yes and has a place, right? Yes and has a place in a space where we're just trying to open up all the possibilities. But depending on what we're doing, and example, like in certain forms of comedy, you can't do yes and in every form of comedy if you actually know if you have a destination that you're trying to get to, because some things don't fit. And so in jazz, if you got a band that's playing bebop, and then somebody comes in and they try to play, I don't know, some Rasta music, they play something that's from the islands, or they play some classical lines. Now, can we make it work? Probably. But should we make it work? That's another question. So it has its place. And if the setting calls for yes and everything goes, and everybody's willing to listen and go in those directions, it's cool. But if the audience isn't right, the setting isn't right, the musicians aren't right, then, it's easy to be like, there are tasteful ways and some very overt, not very kind ways to say, let's not do that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Depends if you're hungry that day or tired, all those things.
All right, Jeff, we've got one last question. We ask this question to everybody who comes on the show. Here we go.
Okay, Jeff Ponders II. You are a musician and an entrepreneur. We'd like to know a Detroit creative that everyone should know about.
First of all, I think that's an unfair question because there's just way too many amazing creators in Detroit. But one of my favorite creators in Detroit is Rick Williams. So Rick Williams is a creative. So he's a graphic designer. He's a shoe designer. He's an entrepreneur. He and his wife own a skincare line. Like, they do everything. He's a tap dancer. He is a multidisciplinary artist. And just super cool. So he's kind of known right now. So he owns a store called Burn Rubber. So they're a really popular sneaker store. Rick is also a high in demand shoe designer. So he's done collaborations with Puma and Adidas. I think he's done some New Balance. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the gamer Ninja. He designed Ninja Shoe, which is absolutely crazy. So he's just a really, really cool dude. He recently, meaning in 2021, released a tap dance album, like a hip hop tap dance collaboration. Yeah, it's like, and he's a feature artist on tap dance.
Perfect. Wow.
Yeah. But he's a super
in
cool
New
dude.
Balances that he designed.
Dude, I've seen tap dance shoes I've seen tap shoes that he actually kind of made himself. He's got like some, I think they're relatively traditional. But he's got content that shows how they made the record. It's really cool. But he's just like, beyond being super creative in a lot of different ways, he's just a really good guy.
All right, cool. Well, Rick Williams, we'll look him up. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been great. People can go to your website, jeffponders.com, and you've got all sorts of stuff there. You've got a podcast, you've got a book, you speaking gigs, name it, it's up there. And obviously we talked to you about improvisation, but I know that you've got a wide range of areas of expertise. So go check it out, jeffponders.com. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Oh, man, this is so much fun. Thank you, guys.
That's it for us here at The Debrief. I'm Seth Ressler.
I'm Becky Scarsello.
Don't forget, lots of ways that you can find the show, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Some of the episodes, like this one, are on YouTube as well.
At the YouTube thing.
If you like video and you like the moving pictures. That's it for us. Until next time, Detroit's moving.
Keep up.